In 1971, an international ban on psychedelics began a long line of negative propaganda and horror trip stories. Today, after society emerges from these cascading effects, we find ourselves looking to unearth these substances again, looking for new routes of thought, consciousness, and therapy. But this is no party. These are shamanic drugs, mind-bending, ego-challenging experiences. In truth, the media has been either lying or willfully ignoring realities associated with these drugs. Maybe they're avoiding sounding like the propagandists that came before them. Let me explain how these individuals are painting a grand psychedelic picture that frankly isn't the whole truth. We need to talk about what these drugs actually do. Why would someone take them? They are in fact very much not what the media portrays them to be. You will likely not see cool patterns and designs, weird mythical creatures, or fall into a portal of rainbow. I do not blame them for not portraying the true reality of these chemicals. It would be hard to artistically show someone on them without showing how they think, because these drugs are very much changing the internal mind. Emphasis on internal. What these people really search for when they're on these drugs is an ego death. The thing you think about when you see yourself, when you picture yourself in your mind. Your accumulation of thoughts and emotions dissolves away. Even when I'm saying this to you now, I'm not entirely sure it truly captures what that means. In many mystical senses, it leaves nothing but the soul. The book, The Power of Now, grapples with this idea of ego. He mentions the ego is just your mind constructing the past and the future, making them real, when in reality, the only thing that's real is right now. Why would someone want to go through an experience that is literally the death of oneself? Well, the thing is, many individuals report significant improvements in depressive and anxious symptoms and increased emotional well-being. These improvements increase in magnitude with increasing exposure, meaning the higher the dose, the bigger and better the results were. Eventually, there was a ceiling effect. But what's crazy is all of these improvements were recorded with a single lifetime use. You don't have to do it more than once. This could be life-changing for individuals. And the fact of the matter, a lot of individuals are stuck in a dead end. The mainstream chemicals used to treat these symptoms would be SSRIs. From 2016 to 2022, over 220 million antidepressant prescriptions were dispensed to over 18 million individuals. And the side effects of these drugs are not to be taken lightly. They range from feeling agitated, shaky, anxious, feelings or being sick, diarrhea, loss of appetite, movement problems, all the way to seeing or hearing things that aren't real. And these are just a couple of the side effects. So undergoing a one-time ego death experience with the possibility to cure your depression seems like a no-brainer to some. But this is not an easy spiritual journey. If you want to disrupt your hardened neural pathways, you must experience something extremely disruptive. If you do not let go during a trip, let yourself die, then that also comes with some terrifying effects.
The worst nightmares can come to life on psychedelics. Think of the worst nightmare you've ever had in your life, and then imagine it being manifest as real or even more real than this physical reality that you're in right now. And imagine that lasting for 2, 3, 5 hours. And in fact, it's even worse than that, because when you're in these psychedelic peaks, there's no notion of time. So some of these horrific trips can seem like they last for eternity, literally eternity.
But in truth, you must weather the storm to get to paradise. You must experience trauma to gain post-traumatic growth. Amazing things coming from traumatic experiences are not uncommon. What do I mean by this? And why does the media mostly leave it out of the discussion? Well, in October 2002, A man was driving home from a late-night music recording session in Los Angeles when he fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into another car. The collision left him with a shattered jaw, which had to be wired shut during reconstructive surgery. He proceeded to record a legendary record called Through the Wire. And this was the beginning primer that rocketed his career into the stratosphere of stardom.
You get that.
I'm speaking, of course, of the famous and now controversial Kanye West. History is littered with individuals that have been forged from extremely difficult situations, ones that shatter their very essence, kill their ego, make them question everything, yet they grow from it, thrive from it, allowing them to rise above all.
But I think even these bad trips, although they can be difficult, are beneficial in our learning experience in the same way that a bad meal could be. You learn not to go to that restaurant, or maybe you learn something about what makes you sick or what to be careful of in the future. I genuinely believe, and this is what is maybe the hardest thing to communicate about psychedelics, is that it's the difficult ones that are often the best. Those are the ones that really teach you something. And when you're trying to talk about psychedelics with people who've never used them, it's not a great selling point to say, oh, the best thing that can happen is you're going to think you're going to die. But that is arguably the best thing that can happen, is to think that you're going to die, because that's a confrontation with the overarching fear, the fear that generates all other fears. And if you conquer that fear, then your life will almost certainly improve.
Well, that's the truth they don't tell you. Growth is hard. Psychedelics, especially at a high dose, are extremely difficult. They are not a shortcut to enlightenment. They challenge the very core of who you are, your literal self. Essentially, they're a death simulator. Sure, it is mystical and spiritual and can be filled with love and positive emotions, but it should not be taken lightly. If not taken seriously, it can destroy you. There's a reason some don't grow from trauma. Post-traumatic growth walks a tightrope between overwhelming and just enough. If you do choose to do these substances, be prepared and be safe. I'm not trying to encourage drug use or self-medication. I'm also not trying to scare any individuals either. I think culture's pendulum of opinion was unfairly swung negatively in the past, and now is swinging back in an equally unrealistic positive space. This is simply my honest take. The truth lies somewhere in between. These are powerful drugs, powerful experiences, and powerful results.